going to be talking about something we don't hear very often, and that is that women are appearing to develop problems with gambling. 1 million women in Great Britain are now at risk of experiencing harm from it. The charity Gamble Aware are attempting to highlight the warning signs so that people can seek support. Well, joining us to discuss this more is GP Dr Ellie Cannon and Lisa Walker, who herself struggled with gambling and the harms that it can entail. So very warm welcome to both of you. Starting with you, Lisa, if I may. I know that you struggled with gambling for nearly 2 decades. Just tell us a little bit about how you fell into it and when you realised you had a problem.
So I actually fell into gambling after winning a 6-figure sum when I was 29 years old at a casino in Southend. I won over £127,000.
Wow.
Now, that should have been the best day of my life, but unfortunately, my gambling really took off then. I started gambling every day at the bookmakers, at the casino, at my local dog track, anywhere that I could place a bet. And it wasn't until 16 years later, when I was 45, I actually started my recovery through Gamblers Anonymous. But it took me a long time to realise I had such a huge financial impact. I lost my house, I ended up homeless, and I ended up in a hostel with my 2 children through gambling. So I just want to say a big thank you to Gamble Aware for raising, this serious subject of women and gambling harms. And to anybody that's out there that's suffering, please don't suffer in silence.
Really amazing story. I want to bring in Ellie Cannon now to talk about, how often we hear about women getting stuck in this cycle of gambling addiction. Is it becoming increasingly common for you to have patients with this?
Well, it's interesting because the research that Gamble Aware have done have actually shown that women are so embarrassed and guilty about gambling that actually they don't come forward. They're half as likely to come forward as men. So when I think about clinic and the number of patients I have who are women who are suffering the harms of gambling, they're actually few and far between. And I think that's why there is this drive today, the start of this new campaign, really to highlight the problem for women who are gambling. And the effects they can suffer, because as you've said, it's just not something that we're talking about. And all of us now have a 24-hour casino in our pockets on our phone. So it's so much easier.
As you say, number of women being treated has doubled in the last 5 years. Lisa, just tell me, can you relate to what Ellie was saying there about how many women feel ashamed about coming forward? I mean, did you find this whole thing an isolating experience? And how hard was it to get help?
Oh, totally relate to what Dr Ellie's just said. As a woman with an addiction to gambling, I felt so much shame and stigma. And especially because I had my 2 children and I ended up in a hostel, I didn't know where to turn to. And when I did go up for help at the local council when I was homeless, they said to me that they'd rather me have a drink or drug problem because they don't know what to do with a compulsive gambler. And I'm just hoping that times are changing now. And when people do access their doctors or do access health providers, that people do understand that gambling addiction is a true addiction, and there's so many women out there that need our help to prevent them from what I did. And any campaign is it's better than nothing. So for any woman at the moment, or any member of their family that thinks like we know somebody that might be in starting a gambling addiction, reach out. Go on the websites. There's so many different fantastic support organisations out there. And also, I started my recovery in Gamblers Anonymous, and there was 2 women in there and 35 men. Now, my GA group I go to now in Upminster, there's at least 6 women that go. So times are changing, but it's very slow. But hopefully this campaign is going to raise vital awareness. And what Dr Ellie's doing is absolutely fantastic as well.
Ellie, in the process of raising awareness, what are the things that we should all be looking out for, whether we're worried about a friend or a loved one, or indeed if we're struggling with it ourselves? What are the telltale signs that perhaps this isn't just a little hobby now, this is a problem?
Mm-hmm. So there are 3 early warning signs that Gamble Aware want women to think about. And this really is the idea that you could be sort of heading into the harms from gambling. And that is if you are spending more than you can afford, if you are finding that time is running away from you when you're gambling. We all know that feeling on social media, but some people have that feeling also with gambling, where time just goes because they've been so long on the apps. And then the third one would be that you're hiding gambling from people, and hiding things is often a sign of an addiction. We see that also with alcohol addiction. So they're the 3 things: losing track of money, losing track of time, and hiding the problem. And they could be the call for you to wake up, have a chat to your GP, speak to the National Gambling Helpline, have a look online at begambleaware.org, and see how you can start to rein in the problem before it really starts to cause harm.
Advice. Lisa, I just want to ask you finally, you've obviously had help now, you continue to get support from Gamblers Anonymous, but to people who are afraid that they might not have a life after addiction, have you been able to piece your life back together? Are you able to support your kids in a way that you weren't before?
Oh yeah, my life has changed. So I'm a peer support worker for a charity called Bet No More. So I counsel people now with gambling addictions. My children are now 25 and 26, and and they're all so proud of me because I've battled an addiction for a long, long time, and I've overcome it. And that is, I want to give a message of hope today that any addiction you can get over with help and the right treatment and the right support. There's help out there.
Okay, Lisa Walker, what an inspirational story. Well done for coming forward. It can't be easy. And Ellie Cannon, thank you so much for raising awareness about this really important issue. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you.